Less than 3 weeks ago, mum of 3, Ruth Maguire, travelled to Carlingford for her friend's hen party. Ruth left the party early and tragically her body was found 36 hours later in Carlingford Lough.
Yesterday, I sat down with Ruth's sister, Rachel Wilkinson, as she remembered her fun, sporty, caring sister and told me what she feels needs to be done to prevent accidents like this from happening again. Rachel, thanks so much for letting us into your gorgeous home. And just meeting you, like, you're so like your sister. Did people say that to you all the time?
Yeah, more so just the last few weeks. Even a few of her friends, were saying at the funeral that I really reminded them of her and just her mannerisms and everything as well. Like, so I never really thought that we looked alike, but a lot of people are saying that they do.
Yeah. Tell us about your sister. She was the baby of your family.
Yeah.
What was she like growing up?
She was she was the youngest of the 4, but the bossiest.
Was she?
Yeah. Really good fun. Very independent, very strong-minded. From a very early age, even she was dressing herself long before she should have been. She was climbing over the wall at the front of the house, taught Ryan, who's 2 years older, how to do it as well. Taught Ryan how to tie his laces.
Wow.
She was just always in front of everyone. She was just, she was full of energy.
Were you good pals?
Yeah. And we spoke all the time. Sent WhatsApps and always kept each other up to date with the kids and stuff, like if they said something funny or if they were doing something funny. Or Ruth was always telling me about their achievements because she was so proud of her 3.
Because herself and her fiance were childhood sweethearts.
Yeah.
So did they meet in school? Like, how were they growing up? Were they always boyfriend and girlfriend growing up together?
We all lived in the same area. He was friends with Ryan, Ruth, our brother. He asked Ryan, could he ask Ruth out? And
it was very. That was good polite etiquette, good protocol there.
And of course, Ryan said yes, although quite a few he had said no to. So Jim got the okay.
Oh, lovely.
So and they just were together for so long. Like they were just lovely together. Such a lovely couple and worked really well together.
And they were due to be married in August.
8th of August.
Gosh. And were plans well underway for the wedding and everything?
Well, Ruth being Ruth, everything was organised. She had everything, bar just, I think she had just a few wee silly things to do, but she got all the entertainment and flowers, the dresses, shoes, everything. So we don't even know some of the stuff she's organised.
Tell us then about this hen party that she went on. Describe the events leading up then to what happened. So it was a big gang that went away to Carlingford.
32 in total. One of Ruth's very good friends. Ruth didn't know that many of them, I don't think. I think because there was obviously aunts and
Yes, of course.
So she knew that she had a few very good friends that were there with her, and then she was obviously going to get to know these other girls. And they all headed down, did a nice meal, and she spoke to Jim after the meal, and he said she sounded good for him, and she didn't sound like she'd had too much to drink or anything. She sounded okay, and then they headed to the bar. Somehow, I think they all left in drips and drabs, so that being such a big crowd, and then Ruth somehow left on her own. They couldn't find her coat in the bar, so she had no coat on. So she left and she went out the front of the bar instead of the side. If she went out the side, the house wasn't too far.
Okay.
But she went out the front. So there's CCTV of her walking along the road, the main road, and you can see her walking along and she sits on a windowsill and then she keeps going, and then she obviously turns down to where this cottage was, where the picture was taken.
And you've seen this footage yourself. And I think, media reports were always kind of talking about how much alcohol she'd had that night. And you've said this repeatedly, she wasn't a big drinker. Like, it was out of character for her to really even have a few drinks even on a hen party, because she didn't even have a hen planned for her own wedding.
No, she didn't want a hen. I was trying to convince her to have one because I wanted a night out, but she didn't want one. She said she might go for afternoon tea. She loved tea. So she just didn't, it wasn't her thing. It was.
And if anything, she'd be the one looking after the girl who'd had too much to drink generally on a night out or something.
She'd be the designated driver. She'd be the one looking after everyone. She'd be the one making sure everybody gets home. Even at her 30th, she drove me home. Her 30th birthday, she had a pot of tea, and she drove me home. She drove Mum home. So no, it was completely out of character for her to go out.
And this picture that appeared then on social media, what's your take on why that picture was there anyway? You don't feel she stopped to take a picture?
No, no, it looks... Initially, you sort of, the fear, was she taking it to send us a message and that this is where she was or something? But I think what's happened is she's swiped, she's just swiped the phone and it's dropped and the picture was taken. Because it wasn't a picture, it was a short video.
Okay.
It was just Ryan's girlfriend, she took a picture of the video. So like
I see.
Yeah. So it was like a screenshot. So that's what we had to go on, so that we got this picture of a door, which is a white PVC door. And it was actually one of the girls on the hen party that found the door.
Oh, okay.
So they were looking everywhere all over the town trying to find her, and they found the door. And the door then led to the search in the lock.
So what do you think happened after that? Like, you can't really account for what happened for the rest of the evening?
No, well that was about, I think it was about 12 minutes past 12. And her phone was off from about 12:30 or before. So they only started ringing her phone around 12:30, I think, when they realised that she was the one who had to come back. So
they went back to the house, the rest of the girls saw she wasn't there, and immediately did they go, this isn't right, she's not the type that would have gone off or anything like this?
Well, I think if Kira and a few of the other ones went out and were calling her name, and then someone said she'd mentioned she wanted to go home to Newcastle, which, being Ruth and not really wanting to go on party nights, you could see that it could be something Ruth would have done.
Yeah.
I want to go home, I'm done.
Yeah.
So I think they hoped that that's what had happened. But then the next morning, whenever they realised that she wasn't there, that's when the panic set in.
So then you arrived down, and then tell us about the rest of that awful day for you.
I went down about 4. Raymond was already down, my older brother. He was on his way to Dublin. So Mum rang him first and said, turn and come back. So he was there and he was trying to speak to the guards and trying to explain, this is, there's something wrong, we're really worried. But I suppose that sort of town, they're used to people going down and partying and maybe find another party and they'll show up the next day at some stage. But we were trying to explain to them, this is not going to happen. There's something, she's either been hit by a car, or she's laying somewhere, or maybe she's hit her head and she's lying like freezing to death somewhere. Like, we just knew something. There had to be something seriously wrong, because her phone was dead. She'd have went somewhere and got a charge, or she'd have asked them, could she use their Facebook or something, just to send a message say, I'm okay.
Yeah. And you were in the Garda station then when they told you they'd found a body and they thought it was your sister?
Well, that was the next day. So there was the whole day of them trying to explain to them, and then eventually I think once we'd all, my other brother went down, so at that stage we were all down there and everyone was saying the same thing. So then they started the search properly, and the helicopter, and there was boats in the water, and there was divers, and there was people in swimming looking, and then it was the next day. So we stayed down that night, and the next day they eventually found her.
I just can't even imagine what it's been like since. How has her partner been coping? Is he just...
Jim's brilliant. Like, he's such a strong character, and his main focus is the kids. So, he's been so strong for them. I think we all are trying to, because obviously our focus is on making sure that they get through this. We're secondary, and even, Jim, I think he's in shock. We're all in shock. So I don't think it hasn't sunk in yet. I don't think any of us really are getting what the reality of it all, that this is, like, Ruth's gone.
What have the kids been told? Have they been told Mommy's gone to heaven?
Yeah.
Oh, God, love them. And Tyler, her eldest, is 10.
Yeah.
Then it's Lydia. What age is Lydia?
6.
And
Oliver's 5. I don't think Oliver really understands. Lydia is just trying to work it out in her head, how it's all going to work, who's going to do my hair for Irish dancing, who's going to, do this, and she's asking for things that belong to Ruth. And then Tyler, he's always been very quiet, so he hasn't really said very much.
So you felt that the RNLI and, everyone down there was a great help, but you feel more could be done down around that area to prevent a tragic accident like this ever happening again?
Yeah, and they said it too, that had there been CCTV down there, had there been better lighting, And the main thing, a barrier, just to close it off. You know, if the barrier had been there, just that hazard, just to let somebody know, don't go across here. There, you know, I don't really get why Ruth wouldn't have walked across the water, but had there been a barrier, I imagine she wouldn't have.
I imagine the night replays in your head, and you're just thinking, if this had happened, if that had happened, like if one little thing had been different, it could have set a different course of events off.
Yeah. Like, she was on her phone, had she been ringing, if she'd rang Jim, he'd have, even with it being, you know, 12:30 at night, he'd have put the kids in the car and he'd went and got her, you know.
You never thought she'd been taken or something sinister had happened, did you?
Well, you obviously do. It goes into your head, you know, what if somebody has, what, and in some ways, it sounds ridiculous, but in some ways, I almost thought I'd rather that than think, because when they were in they kept looking in the lock, and I kept thinking, she's not in the water, she must be somewhere else, somebody has her or something, because you'd rather, it's the lesser of two evils, because, you know, if somebody had her, at least she was alive, and we might get her, but they obviously, they put the two and two together, and they knew she was in there.
She was such a gorgeous girl, and from what you've said, she was as gorgeous inside as she was outside. How do you hope she's remembered?
Sorry, it's okay.
No, I'll tell you what, I think the thing about this story is that every woman of our age, every woman who has kids, is thinking, that could have been me, and it could have been one of my pals. And every girl has been on a hen party when someone's gone off, and, you know, you try and look out for each other, but you can't when there's a group of 30 of you.
Yeah.
So I think that it honestly made, certainly in my gang, all of us go cold.
Yeah.
And we were all just watching and hoping that there was good news at the end of the story. And I think that's why it's just, everyone is just so sad for you. And she was just looked like such a remarkable girl. And it's just the saddest thing that could have happened to your family.
Yeah. I just sort of keep thinking, the amount of nights I've went out and had too many and somehow managed to make it home, but Ruth didn't. And how to be remembered just as such a great mum, just a family person. She kept the whole family together, extended, you know. She even brought aunts, you know, she would invite aunts, uncles, everyone to the kids' birthday parties. She always made me feel like the lazy one, like the lazy mum, because she was just up to so, you know, she just was always just this busy ball of energy. And I think mainly just as just the best mum.
God love them. They haven't even begun to deal with it yet. I mean, it's only a month.
They're numb. Rachel really wanted to thank the RNLI. She was so emphatic on that, how good they all were. I think the family wanted to do a fundraiser, and she really wants to push for a barrier around the loch, and the community down there all agree, and they're all in agreement, the guards in agreement. So that's, I guess, what they want to push for now, so that they feel, you know, that this never, ever happens again. And yeah, she just wants her sister to be remembered as an amazing mother.
You said it yourself. Sure, how many of us have gone out with a gang, and you know you lose track of one, and you think, it'll be grand, it'll be fine. Somebody else is doing it. Somebody else is looking after them, or they'll be, you know. And it's there, but for the grace of God, go any one of us. Oh,
So sad.
our deepest sympathies and condolences to the family.
We're going to take a break now. Join us shortly.